Hello and welcome to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
I'm Joe Kirk.
Before we introduce who our guest is today, Joe is going to remind us of our show's purpose.
Our show's purpose is to align both people that are seeking service and those that actually do service with those that are really doing service out in the world and in organizations. So we have great people on, like Luke today. Really excited about it. So why don't we just get to it?
Our guest is Luke Wendlandt. He's the founder of Cadre. Little teaser for you. There's a fun little story behind how Luke and Joe know one another. Stay tuned. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
We'll be back. Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service, brought to you by Rotary District 5950. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
And before we welcome in our guest today, Joe is going to remind us about our show's sponsorship.
All right. We are sponsored by Russell Hampton and Companies. They are the #1 printer of Rotary items. And just an FYI out there for your Rotarians, 10% of every purchase through Russell Hampton for Rotary items goes back into Rotary. So it's a really great system that they've set up as a huge supporter of Rotary. And then also check them out for any business needs as well. They print for any company, anytime.
Thank you, Russell Hampton. We appreciate your sponsorship. We want to welcome our guest today who's in studio. We love having a guest in studio. It just kind of it plays into the energy levels. Welcome, Luke Wendlandt with Cadre. He's the founder.
Kelly was afraid of the last name. It was so funny.
No.
She's sitting there staring at the page like, don't mess this up. But Luke will tell you he doesn't even know what
it's great to be here. Honestly, thank you.
Founder and owner of North Star Behavioral Health and Cadre.
That is correct.
We're happy to have you.
Very excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
So we want to give our listeners the opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. And so why don't you share first, where are you from?
Yep. I'm from Hutchinson, Minnesota, just west, 45, 50 minutes from right here. Hutchinson, Minnesota, right in our backyard, rural Minnesota. Actually, Joe and I used to play tennis against each other back in the day. Yeah.
This might be a really great opportunity to talk through how that reconnection point was made.
Okay. Well, let's take a step back first. So, right about now is state tennis tournament season.
Yeah.
So it's perfect to kind of rehash this, but I would have been about, I want to say like a senior in high school. And I think Joe would have been either eighth grade or freshman. And so when you're growing up in 7th, 8th grade, unfortunately you get thrust into varsity tennis. There's really not a whole lot of options like JV varsity, but JV is usually pretty small in the state of Minnesota. So more often than not, it's varsity, which 7th, 8th graders, you get to take a little bit like war wounds, some scars with you. And I was there, I've done it. And Joe did it in the 7th and 8th grade. So I was a senior, played Joe when he was younger, had an opportunity, and I lucked out that match. I got the win, but
just barely.
But
I think it was six bagel.
But regardless, but Joe knows exactly what I'm talking about because he's had those bagels when kids come in at 7th and 8th grade where they're just learning and getting their sea legs. And so, but no, we were at had the opportunity to present at a Rotary conference. Gosh, how many months ago was that again?
It was last October.
Last October.
Yep.
Wow.
So the district conference for District 5950.
Which was an awesome experience, by the way, and had the opportunity to present on mental health and mental health and wellness and talking about why mental health, what's important about mental health. What are some ways in which we see it today through our workforces or otherwise. And it was just a privilege. And, there's a guy walking around with the mic, kind of going person to person during the Q&A part. And, even the voice, I was like, that sounds familiar. And then before you know it, I had a couple of questions about tennis and whatnot. And then Joe was like, and I'm from Shakopee, and I was like, no way. And at the time, you had your nickname growing up, and so I called him by that. But regardless, it was a fantastic reconnection. And here we are, and we've had coffee and connected and texted and coffee connected. And I don't believe in coincidences. I 100% feel like that was supposed to happen. That opportunity was supposed to happen. And, for me, it's again, circling around great individuals that ultimately breed success in your life. That's so much bigger than business. Always.
Sounds like you guys have an opportunity in the future to maybe make a trip out west.
Would love to. Love to.
Together, maybe with the golf sticks.
That would be great. But one thing that
pillow talk, I tell you what, Fort Knox over here.
That's good. That is great. But one thing that my wife and I believe in with all of our heart is experiences.
Yeah.
Experiences with other individuals you care about, other individuals you trust and love. And I think if you do a 1 day or a 2 day with somebody and go deep and communicate and talk and live, eat, and breathe the same thing for a little bit, I think we learn a lot about each other. And so I'm excited about that. I always try to do 5 to 10 of those a year. Much to my wife's chagrin sometimes, when it comes to timing and everything, we're all busy. But when you get the opportunity to do it, you got to take it in and just live it up.
Love it.
Yep.
So that was cool. We got to meet each other or reconnect.
Yes.
At the district conference, and it was really great to hear about Cadre, and we'll hear more about it a little later in the show here. But tell us a little bit about your service journey. How have you served in your life, and how have you used service as a tool for yourself?
I think service goes back to when we were young. I think there's some individuals that kind of have it, and what is it, in our family, we always kind of call it the gratitude bone. And we've got to grow the gratitude bone at a young age. It's something that we have to show, as parents, as moms, as dads. What does gratitude look like? What does that look like? How can we support? How can we help? How can we lean into service? And one of the things that I started with at a very young age was helping support in tennis, all the time, whether it was, our women's our girls program, middle school girls program in tennis, starting there, went off to college at UMD. I was 19 years old, head coach at Duluth East High School. Boy, I learned so much. Not only did I learn so much about service, but how to work with parents, and the kids, how to deal with loss, how to work through the difficult things, difficult conversations, and thrust into that level of service. And then, I think we can easily say what service is to a lot of people, like writing a check for charity. I feel very different about it. I think time, energy, love, support, passion behind what you do is exponentially greater than, and don't get me wrong, we would love philanthropic checks, Rotary or otherwise. That's phenomenal. But when it comes to our effort and time that people can put in, boy, that's amazing. And so what does service mean to me? Is, getting value, where you spend your time and where you spend your money. And if your time goes into something that you want to believe in, whatever that might be, for me, it's the health and human services field. It's supporting schools. Cadre just supported, O.H. Anderson, our backyard Amada Medai, to help support the school system. Just kind of whatever it takes to, help hunker down and lift up a person, lift up an organization, lift up each other. That's service to me. And I think it's probably the best legacy you can leave behind is to be, a service representative for your community.
Servant leader.
Steward, good steward.
Yeah, that's so good. And it's nice to hear that, the connection point that's happening between Cadre and, say, the education system, right? That's especially this day and age too. You're seeing such a shift with young children having exposure to, say, social media and the mental health that is coming along with it, and enter Cadre. What an incredible platform. I think this is a nice segue to talk a little bit more about Cadre and
Thank you.
how Cadre came to fruition
Mm-hmm.
and what Cadre is for.
Oh boy. Well, I think we need a couple different sessions on this one and a therapist. But leaning into the truth, because I think that's what we are, is just truth seekers as human beings, to speak openly and honestly about what we've been through, in our whys. And for me, I really felt like I was searching for a feeling all of my life growing up, like whether it's success, whether it is first time with alcohol, whether it's a relationship, whether it's feeling from my parents that they would give me. I was definitely a recognition seeker. I'm looking for recognition, whether it's the people I worked for, and that leads you down a path where you always got to find the next thing. You got to find the next thing that makes you happy, and the next thing that makes you happy, and the next thing. Why? Is because you're not confident. You aren't reassured. You don't have the self-awareness to look deeper in yourself and others. And so that was me. Scared. Didn't really know who I was. Just kept searching through. On the surface, it looked good in theory, but underneath it was just anything but. Like, I was the picture where you saw the top of the iceberg and then the bottom of it, right? The top looked great. You got, accolades, off to good schools, blah, blah, blah. Underneath, it was like, whoa, are there some things brewing? And that was me. And when you thought you had it all, you really had nothing. And my goal is to show other individuals that have generalized anxiety disorder, panic attacks, anxious, depressed, you name it, coupled with, for me, alcohol. How can we navigate through systems and change of life?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if I can help support a young Luke that's 19, 20, 25, that ultimately might not have to go through a decade of trying to figure it out, Googling it out, and researching it out, and therapying it out, that they might just lean into a few things earlier, I think we can help support a massive change. And right now we need it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we need it. Our society needs it. It doesn't matter. Like, the same conversation that comes up to me all the time, no matter who I talk to, is, who's your target market with your business? Who's your target market? And the reality is, and I know it's crazy when I say this, it's everybody. It's truly everybody. Everybody, whether you like it or not, are struggling some way or another at any given time. And most of us fluctuate through the day like that, up and down, up and down, up and down. Some people is by the hour. Some other individuals might even be by the minute. And if we can help people to try to find their baseline of whatever their baseline might be, I believe that will have a massive impact. So what does that actually mean from Cadre? Cadre is a live streaming platform. We have live streams. We have pre-recorded content. We have a community feature. We are now building out, excuse me, the chair's a little bit off on me. But we are now building out our web app. So we have both. So imagine YouTube, right? Where you have YouTube on your phone, but then you can also go to your computer and find everything with YouTube.
Yeah.
And so we're speaking to the masses first, and then going to break it down to the individual user. So we can serve any individual user wherever they are through therapeutic means, you name it, through peers, professionals alike. And so we believe, not only we believe, but the market is telling us this is its first of its kind, right? So to really create social media in mental health and wellness. So you can see it on 4 other platforms on Earth, right? TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, you name it. But we don't know where any of those resources are coming from. Any of them, right? Are they vetted? Are they not? Is it somebody from whoever that's going through a lived experience? Is the content coming? Is in accurate means all of it. So I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I think it's important to know of what problem we're faced in our world. What's the solution that we're building and why? And it's just ever changing. Like the Cadre platform has to. We have to go to what the market needs.
Well, our culture is built on anxiety.
100% it is.
Building anxiety, building fear, building all of those things. And those, for a long period of time, have extraordinarily detrimental impacts on people that have real experiences that they're stacking on top of it, right? Like, I mean,
Correct.
just go on social media for 5 seconds and go, how do I feel?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. And the truth of the matter is, we actually now know it,
Yeah.
right? So 75% of individuals leave and they feel better. 75% of
From
individuals
Cadre.
no, from social media.
Okay.
75% of individuals at any given time leave and feel better. Okay. That next time, 75% of individuals leave and feel worse. Right. So you're jumping in, and it's either I feel better about my experience and myself, or I feel worse.
Yeah.
And there's nothing really in the middle.
Mhm.
And that's the scary part. So imagine our kids. And again, this is our oath to our kids, is if you do not use social media by the time you graduate, you can go anywhere you want. 1
Mhm.
week on us, wherever it is in the world, go for it. We know what it does. Read the anxious generation. Find any data that tells you what it does to you, and it's horrific to your brain. It's horrific to your development, and most importantly, your self-esteem.
Mhm.
So why? Why do people still use it? And the reality is, we have to. We have to for business. We have to for professional experiences. We have to be out there. We are still in a marketing world,
Mhm.
right? Marketing exists, whether it's your roles or my roles, right? I have to participate on LinkedIn. I have to participate on some of the things. Why is we have to? We're businesses, so we have to be where we need to be, and you have to sift through the stuff and the noise.
It's
The
really
exposure,
interesting.
yeah.
I've run into a couple really nice swing thoughts when it comes to social media. When you're a creator
Mhm.
and not a consumer, versus like consuming the content versus creating the content and
Yeah.
then seeking, like using it as the tool that it's designed to be.
Correct.
But what happens isn't, I mean, this happens to me all the time where I'm just like, you know what? I just feel like putting everything down for 5 seconds and just taking a break. And then that's the break.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I just consumed absolute garbage. Like,
Yeah.
and I feel garbage.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I honestly, I think that I would shut off all the social media if I didn't need it for business. Or I
Same.
shouldn't say if I didn't
100%.
need it for business, if it didn't help serve me
Mhm.
for business. I think that's
Right.
like,
I agree. And you can't also speak out of both sides of your mouth to your kids. Right. Like don't. And here I am posting. Like I gotta be super, super careful and cautious of the message I send by the tell me and show me. And I think it's really important with our children, and as we grow up, how to do it too. But not only that, but as business leaders.
Yeah.
Who are we putting ourselves out there as?
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's fair. And then I think you said something that kind of stuck with me in terms of like how you can approach social media too, is establishing that baseline for yourself.
Correct.
So if you know where to like return,
Yep.
because you were talking about the swings, negative and positive, it's just that nobody knows where to return. And
Yeah.
I like just even thinking about it for myself, I go, yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's, I don't know where to return to.
Yep.
Like,
And we can break down down to the micro and to the macro. For example, like just think of the anxious observer that just posted something. You can feel their anxiety, like from afar, right? Is it one post, one like, 20?
Mhm.
Does my friend share this? Do they not? Do they tell them in advance to make sure that it goes out farther? Like, think about the level of anxiety we have with just one post from a lot of people.
mhm.
It's crazy.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
crazy. And then take a step back further and think that our fourth graders, our sixth graders, our 10th graders, like when our day was done in school, it was done.
Mhm.
Like we got to go off to school. School was done. We were off on the playground. Playground was done, and we went our own way. Whether it was sports, home, you name it. Bullying, in essentially, could churn on and churn off from 8 in the morning till 4
Mhm.
p.m.
Yeah.
Bullying never stops today. It's 24/7. That's a cumulative effect.
Mhm.
And it never ever stops. And I'm scared for our kids that are growing up through that, where you got to think to yourself, the only way sometimes I can feel better about myself is to feel worse about somebody else.
Mm.
that scary thought to like put out to our world. So, and I know that is very 10,000, 30,000 foot view and broad brushing the whole segment. And I don't want to do that, but it does happen.
Yeah.
And the data and all the stats exist to tell us that it does.
Well, let's talk about that for 2 seconds. Let's just go, okay, how do you equip your kid? You know, and we're all experts at this table. We're just talking anecdotally, right? Like
we're not.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
But it's going, okay, knowing what kids face, knowing what, you know, and kind of using your expertise in this area.
Yeah.
You know, how do you equip your kids to, because I look at it as social media has created an advantage for bullying or something else.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, what's the reaction to that? Like, what's the antidote to that 24/7 bullying? Like, is it an active kid? Is it somebody who has high self-esteem, understand, you know, family unit, friend unit, something, you know what I mean? Like, what are the numbers or data say about, like, what are the antidotes to those things?
Yep. My wife's been an educator for 20 years, and she always says the same thing. You want to know where the kids end up? Look at mom and dad.
Sure.
Look at mom and dad. Like, what's mom, what's dad doing? She always said that the other piece of data that I'll never forget is the language that dad speaks to the kids with is the most influential language. So like how I speak to the kids takes their vocabulary to where it was with mom to now where it is with dad. Mm-hmm. And so the words we use, the things we say, and why is because notoriously we're the part B of the equation. The part A of the equation is always growing up near and dear, closer to mom, right? Sure. Like it's just, it is what it is. Like it's a biological byproduct. And what we need to do as dads, as fathers, is find the most way and possibilities to be present and to show ourselves in different ways. So for example, today, was behind the eight ball, which was great with work, behind the eight ball, which was great. I had the opportunity to bring the kids to school, which I try to do as much as I possibly can. Other individuals might be, having their kids on phones or whatever. Like we listened to a motivational video on our way to work, on our way to school. Like we literally had it rotate from McConaughey to Goggins to you name it, to all the individuals in eight minutes.
Love it.
And our kids got to listen to, purpose, passion, why, you name it. That's what it is. Why is because that's who dad is. Like that's just who I am. Like that's what I listen to. That's what I want. I'm not going to change the narrative of who I am to listen to, no offense, a Disney song on the way because that's what my daughter wants. It's not happening. Like you're going to get me and you're going to listen to me and you're going to hear who I am and what I listen to and why it is. And it is what it is. Yeah. If you don't like it, that's fine. You have 8 minutes and we're going to go and I'm going to drop you off to school. But if you get one nugget out of there of purpose, passion, your future, putting yourself in a position of success, you name it, and we start early, it's a win.
Yeah.
It's a huge,
They're
huge
literally
win.
getting out of the car.
Oh, yeah.
Going into school.
Yep.
And it's like, how can I serve somebody today? How
Correct.
can I grow today? How can I help someone today? It's so cool.
And also,
well, if it's Goggins, it's let's go.
Yeah. And maybe a few curse words too.
That could be, but it's so crazy the dynamic of the vehicle today. My son in the front's like, oh, I kind of like that one. Cameron in the back's like, yes. And then Ada in the back's like, can you turn that down? Like when the door's opening, like, can you turn that down? I'm so embarrassed. Dad, please. It's so interesting.
Play like a champion today.
How different the three.
And Luke's like, we're just gonna turn this up. Have a great day. See you later.
Oh, it's the same thing. So we have I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but we have a Cadre, a podcast van, and it's the same thing. Pulling up with that. My daughter's like, hey, can you just kind of like leave us over on the end over here? And then if you have a different vehicle, she's like, okay, now I'm good in the front. It shows how influential we really are.
When we were rolling in here, I was like, he might have the Cadre van today.
Well, and I didn't realize that Cadre had a podcast
It
too,
does.
and that the van really served the purpose for the podcast.
Yeah. So, one
Why
thing
don't you
that,
talk about that a little bit?
yeah. So, let's break that down. There's a few things that are really important with Cadre. Number one, the individuals that create content for Cadre are called our Cadre contributors. And who are they? They're individuals with lived experiences, individuals that are licensed, credentialed, contracted, coaches with certifications, you name it. And they're vetted through a system by us. It's a 5-step process before anybody would even be on the platform, right? And so we want to make sure that when content gets delivered to our world, whether it's through the businesses that acquire a Cadre, the individuals that do, the insurance companies that we work with, you name it, that they are really truly receiving vetted content. Because one of the things that we hear about over and over again is like, how do we know this is vetted, comparatively speaking, versus anything you find on the internet? Very, very, very important to us. So what we do is have our Cadre contributors that create content on the platform. And then sometimes we even go to them. And so we have this amazing van. It's a Sprinter van where we will go and we'll drive to, this thing has been Florida, New York, LA. It's been
like everywhere.
It's been everywhere. And
Are you driving the Sprinter?
Sometimes yes. Sometimes yes.
I'd love to say no, but yes.
So the answer is yes. And it's an incredible experience to find all of our whys of, how did you end, talking about service, right? And here I'm fortunate, blessed enough to be here with you two, but we want to make sure that everybody gets that experience to tell their story. And I think we can learn from everybody's stories, whether it is a teacher, again, it's like, find that 20-year-old right now in our world and have them be your mentor, because they are learning at light speed compared to us.
It's crazy.
Yeah, just find that 20 to 23-year-old that's graduating from college, that went through the pandemic, that knows AI better than we can ever dream of, and say, you're my guy or gal.
Yeah.
That I want to learn from you. That's really important right now. So yes, we have a podcast van. The podcast is circulated ultimately through the app. Which will also be the web app as we continue to roll. It's amazing what these guys have built and created. So I'm just fortunate, blessed to be a part of it.
Very cool.
It's so cool.
and sometimes I have to say, I've seen both of you pop on a live stream. It could be my Monday motivation. It could be other things. And, every Monday at 8 a.m., hell or high water, you will see me. On the app. And I think in the last 2 years, I think I've missed twice. One was COVID and one was our family, my wife and I's first trip in 10 years. Realize I'm there. Otherwise it could be like Monday motivation on a Tuesday because something happened, but no matter what, Monday I will be there. And it's, setting the baseline for all of us. That's my hope, is when you go into your week, Sunday scaries should be pushed to the back burner, and Sunday should be a very encouraging time for all of us. And Monday should be basically like your predictor of your week. Like I'm prepared. I'm ready. I know what I'm walking into. Sunday should be energized, and Monday should be like, I got this.
Yep.
Instead, our world is not operating that way. Our world is walking in on Sunday where it's scary, and on Monday it's, what do I do now?
Yeah.
And so we need to flip the script for people and help them find themselves.
I went through a coaching program where they highly, highly recommended, almost like this is a mandatory for you to be successful in your business. And it was called a Sunday ritual. And you carved out time to plan and prep for what the week was going to look like ahead for you. And I have it on our calendar. And for me, I personally do it in my mortgage business.
I love that.
But that can be applied for anybody, for whatever it is that you're doing, whether you own and operate your own business or you don't.
Correct.
It's something that can be done individually or with your spouse, significant other, or your kids.
We talked about that when we had coffee. Sunday night is one of the most important nights of, I would say, any entrepreneur's life, that they sit down and they look through and they try to identify and find gaps, not only in themselves, but their business. Like, you have to really be self-aware. As you know, we talk about service. Self-awareness is also in not only service of where you're going and where you're putting your time, but yourself.
Mm.
Like, really looking at yourself and analyzing, like, did I spend the time the way I'm supposed to this week? Did I spend my money? How did I do with my kids? Yeah, you know, kind of like really analyzing yourself on those big 5 that you have, those big 3 that you have. You know, a lot of people immediately go to financial, friends, family, spiritual. If that's your big 4, cool. Well, how did that work for me this week? You know, look at it post-mortem on Sunday and look at future forward on Sunday night. But I mean, I have my book here. I mean, it goes everywhere with me, you know, with my other thing, you know, it says
George Costanza
this
wallet
this
there.
is it. It is. It's very true. But I bring this with. This is 10 years old, and I bring it with everywhere. Don't talk, execute. I can, I will, I must. I can beat it. I will beat it. I must beat it. No alarm is needed. My passion wakes me up. You got 90 opportunities to help somebody. When you take the easy way out, when you're always going to get fired. And I bring it with me everywhere. And it's been with for 10 years. And that's what I have. And it's just how I roll.
You have 90 opportunities to help somebody.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
That was from the North Star days. So the North Star days, you know, we get the opportunity to help and serve individuals with substance use disorder, stimulant, opioid use disorder, and we're long-term residential care. 90 days. We always talk about our 1A, 1B, those we serve and those that serve them. And we have 90 days, and that impression from the minute somebody walks in the door that is hopeless, down, low, scared, all of it is you have 90 opportunities and they fly by. That's it. And for us, like, if you really break it down, like 1 year, 2 for us in business, you have 365 days. Really? Do you? No, you don't. Because you have your time with your kids, you have your weekends, you have your vacations, you have all of it. You break down those days, maybe you have 200, 220 days. Then of those 220 days, you break that down more finite, right? Get your reading in, think tank time, food, got to eat. And then you break down, it's like, holy cow, I really only have like 60 hours, 80 hours to like make the hugest dent in personal change this year or whatever. So if you're not using your time wisely, you are behind the 8 ball. And that breaks down into service, into business, into a dad, into a mom, into a friend, into literally anything. And I think that anybody that would come up probably to any one of us 3 would probably say they use their time wisely. And I think that is not only owed to respect, but people seeing you and people seeing like, wow, they're really, really chiseled in with their schedule. And I think it's critical.
Well, talk about that a little bit more, because it is so consistency is always the word for me, right? Like, I don't care how slow I'm going. I just never stopping. Just never stopping. And just the consistency component. And that's hard to do. Like, an interesting takeaway that I've taken, whether, again, you know, for the whole purpose of this show is, you know, service. Let's just use that for the example. Okay. Oh, I don't have time to serve. No, you do. You're just not prioritizing the service as an important component. And then how do you consistently do something small? Like, how do you just spend 10, 15 minutes and you think of, and you just actually serve and do something, whether it's your family or whether it's a friend, or, I mean, we've all got people that need support and help. And that's service. We forget that service. We equate it so much with like these huge grand gestures. And on this show, we've had, World Vision and some of these things where we're doing $40 million projects and in places where it's having a huge impact. But some of the biggest impacts that I've seen, especially from the show, are the things that were done consistently that were small all the time. And I just love that theme of, you know, manage yourself and your time and have that discipline in yourself to become consistent at it.
It's the hardest thing in the world to do.
It really is. Because we all know, like, it's so funny. I bet you that if you asked anybody, they know what they need to do.
Correct.
But they don't believe in their ability to execute it consistently all the time, because we can immediately go, oh man, my kids get sick, or this happens and life happens and whatever. And you go, yeah, it's not easy to do, but if it's important to you, you'll block it into your time and you'll make it happen. Like I loved all the things that you shared that you've carried around. I think it's really powerful because I mean, we're all the one thing that I've taken away so far is we all are struggling. It's present tense. It's not I've struggled or I'm going to struggle. It's we're all struggling every day because I mean, every day is a battle. That's what life's all about. That's why life's great.
Yep. We all are struggling. We just held Cadre just held a in-person event called the Respect event with iHeartRadio in conjunction with TPI Hospitality.
Okay.
Right. And so the three organizations got together and said, let's talk about age gap that's struggling in our workforces. We have 5 generations working together right now that are sandwiched in. Seriously, 15 to 80 that are all working together right now. And imagine talking to your mom and dad about feelings. And now imagine talking to a 15-year-old about feelings that talk about, I need a mental health day, and how open we are at different generations, right? So just imagine that alone. And then, our mental health and well-being in our workforce, how can we treat that with respect and dignity? Neurodiversity in the workforce, how can we respect and dignity, work-life balance, all of it. So respect is the overarching theme. Then we broke it down to our 5. Like, what are the 5 things we're going to attack? And I will just say, blown away by the 50 individuals in the room and how deep trauma, struggle, and it might not even be theirs. They're eating it for somebody else in their life. Right. And it's just embedded in us. And, they always say big T, little t, it's still trauma. And we can't tell somebody else how big or small their trauma is. And so when we're working through these things in our workforce and then add in a recession, add in, you have a lot of things that I'm not saying this is a cliff by any stretch of imagination. I think the opposite. I think we have an unbelievable opportunity.
I agree.
I think we have an unbelievable opportunity for change. And this is what we should be living for, is being the lights of lives that, quite frankly, are having a hard time seeing it, or it's very dim in their own homes. And it's not success that's going to give that away. It's not words that's going to give that away. It's going to be action.
Modeling.
Yeah, it's modeling. It's showing it. It's working with it. It's experiencing it. Some of the greatest people I know don't have much at all. And why is because they've even sometimes chose that. And that's great. And I've been around individuals that have so much and are utterly miserable.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't matter where you are on the spectrum of quote unquote success, time management, discipline, pushing things forward. That's really advantageous in people's lives. They can continue up.
I think the big theme that we've had in this show, this episode, is certainly modeling. And to again bring it back to the show where we're talking about service and going, if you're looking at your community or you're looking at the people that are around you and you don't feel like there's enough service in their heart, model that for them. Because to your point, people, it's contagious. And especially to your kids, especially to your family. Like, I think about some of the things that we model in our family are becoming contagious to our larger family. It's really interesting and powerful because I didn't always believe that was the case. Like, I always thought like, oh, people are stuck in their ways, whatever, blah. But the modeling component and how much it helps support, like, I think of how much Kelly models certain attributes that I struggle with, and then vice versa, and how much that like carries us.
That's right.
Right. And so it's really coming back to, because you go back to social media. Let's just tie this all up. It's really wonderful. Go back and tie this all up. Social media, the reason why it's disgusting and really harmful, potentially harmful, is there's no action. It's just talking. It can be great, right? Like you hear the amazing motivational speech coming to school.
Yeah.
But unless they step out of that van,
correct,
and they go, I'm going to do something with this, it's useless.
That's exactly right.
And so let's tie this together with Cadre. So how is Cadre building more models for the world?
I think it's twofold. Number one, negative communication whatsoever does not exist on Cadre. For anybody that's listened in, we now have 5,000 videos, 20,000 hours of content. I mean, it's just absurd, like how much content that's on the platform. Not one content or piece of content or video is going to have any negative connotation, thought, messaging, except for what may have been the past and how change could have been affected in somebody's life in order how to push forward, etc. We still can't make somebody change the behavior. Like that's impossible, right? Only authority can do that. Whether it's our police departments, and sometimes they miss that too, or parenting, right? I mean, that's really the only way that change can truly happen. It's an intrinsic thing. But extrinsically, what can we do? And that's on us to make sure that we deliver the right content at the right time with the right information to the right subset of people that are interested in wanting more in their life. And if you want more in your life, that has means that could potentially be detrimental, and or wasting your time, which is so valuable in this life. There are those things available. We know the big five. I mean, they'll do anything in their power to make sure you stay there. To the flip side of the coin, over here, we actually don't want you here. And I mean that in the most loving way. Like we hope that it comes a point where you use less and less and less. Like take a time away because you're making those changes. You're leading into those steps. Like that's the goal, right? Again, it's the same thing with our treatment programs. We don't want them. Unfortunately, we've had to build a lot over the years, and that's sad, but that is our job as a mission is to help and serve as many people as possible. To the flip side of the coin, it's the same thing. We hope Cadre doesn't exist. Odds are probably not going to be true for a long, long, long time.
Well, let's go there. What happens when Cadre doesn't exist for you?
Well, I haven't thought about that yet.
But he's still eye deep into it. He's like, I don't even.
Great question. But if it got to the point where our world was a much better place and the world and all the human beings were making better decisions and what would I do? I'd probably be a tennis coach. I love coaching. I love helping people. I think I was put on this world to help. And so I would probably just help support people that tennis is always my first love, down to the sound of the ball hitting the court, down to opening the can and smelling the fuzz of the ball. Like I can go that deep.
You guys,
like that
the
love,
two of you, seriously.
Only tennis players know.
There's nothing like it. And that was my first love. And it's always been my first love before, my wife, the kids, anything. It was always tennis. And I would probably go back somewhere. Tennis has given me an amazing life of people that I've had the opportunity to meet, losses, learning, development, getting your butt kicked in, whatever. Like you got to learn from those things. And it's just, it makes you better. Like it's you and only you out there.
Yeah.
That's it. Maybe that's where some of my anxiety started. No,
maybe.
but
fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough. But it's true. And you got to learn and live through some heartbreaks and some defeats. And I think that leans into like coaching as parents. Like the best thing in the world that can happen to our kids is they fall right on their face. And they do it a lot. Not saying it hurts, like it literally hurts. Like, oh, I'm so happy they fell off their bike. That's not what I mean. But that they had a tough day with a friend. They struggle in class. They're having a tough time deciding who they should or shouldn't invite to a birthday party. Those are awesome things.
I agree. That's so good.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be wrapping up here. Here's a question we love to ask all of our people that we have on here is, if you're looking to serve, you're out there, you haven't served in the past, or you're just trying to figure out how to get into service. What's your advice for them?
I think it's two steps. The first one, we talked a lot about helping each other, helping others. It's really, really, really hard to help other people when you're not in the right place first yourself. And so I think the first thing you have to do if anybody was listening, like I would just say, you've got to look inside and say to yourself, am I ready to serve other people right now? And again, service is such a big word. It could mean other employees, it could mean other colleagues, it could mean other relationships. Like, am I ready to have a boyfriend or a girlfriend? Am I ready to get into a marriage? Right? Because you got to think, like, service is service. Like, service is helping other people, and helping other people also means your wife or your husband, your significant other, your partner, whatever that is. It also means other organizations. It other means other entities, you name it. So it's like, am I ready to give up what I need to give out of me in a tank that might be completely empty in order to help people, or that might actually jumpstart you?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to know what
I'm
it
so
is.
glad that you said that.
But that might be able to jumpstart you for change. Like, wow, I helped, and that really fueled my tank. That fueled me up, and I saw the light in somebody's life when I gave a little bit, and now that gave me more. So I think you need to differentiate between the two and figure out where you are.
Like that answer. Yeah. That's a good one.
I do too.
We also join Rotary.
There you go.
Join
Yes.
Rotary. Get on Cadre's app platform.
Yeah, we'll have all the
and
information on the
we'll
show
make sure to
page.
drop all of that
Beautiful.
information in the show notes for everybody. And just want to thank you.
No,
Luke,
thank you.
for
Thank you for having
Yeah,
me.
this was great.
carving out the time to come over to this side of the country, as I like to say, and join us in sharing about your mission and service through Cadre.
Thank
It's been
you.
incredible.
Appreciate
So,
it, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in to Searching for Service. We'll be back. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk. We'll be back.
Hello and welcome back to Searching for Service. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
What a wonderful interview with Luke.
Great interview. It's always nice to align mental awareness with service because it does go hand in hand. And always loved having him on.
Yeah, that platform that they're providing for people is just absolutely incredible. So if you have an opportunity, make sure to check out Cadre. We hope you enjoyed listening to this episode with Luke. I'm your host, Kelly Kirk.
And I'm Joe Kirk.
As a reminder, it's time to stop searching
And start serving.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.